with my online presence, I started before the pandemic happened, and I wasn't super serious with it yet. I had just started the platform on OnlyFans and was like, I'll just post a little, this and that here and there. But I wasn't super like adamant about it because it's hard to do online work when you're in the club like 5 days a week. It's very hard to do both of them because you leave the club and you just have no energy. You have to have a life as well, and it can't be work all the time. But if you try to do, online work on top of that, it's just like everything is work all day, every day. And I started going a little slightly insane with that, which is why I only focused on the club at one time. But then once the club closed and I didn't really have the choice anymore, I was like, okay, well, I will invest in this other platform. And so I did it up until for about a year. For about a year, I was very on it and active. And then finally, the club reopened, and I was like, all right, I'm going back to what I prefer. And the reason that I preferred, in person physical work is because online, people just are a lot more ballsy with the things that they say and the things that they send. A lot of people feel more protected and comfortable and strong behind a screen, behind a keyboard, than they do in person. And it actually made me feel more unsafe online. Like, I was getting a lot of messages from people that lived in my area, and not even like random people that I had never met before, no idea how they found me, which, it could have easily been, just seeing me somewhere, seeing me on a club post or anything. But they would find my OnlyFans and they would send me things like, oh, I know where you live at. Can I come do this, XYZ to you? And it was very much starting to scare me because I can't see who these people are. They're behind a username with no
Mm-hmm.
name, no face. I have no idea who's watching me. There would be people telling me that they could tell where I lived at based off of my floorboards, based off of any minor detail that they could see, and whatever photos or videos I was posting on OnlyFans. And that just got really scary to me. Like, I just couldn't take that. And I also just got tired of having to wake up every day and take photos of myself. Like, it was
Mm-hmm.
starting to give me a level of dysmorphia. And while I do think I'm beautiful, I'm very confident, but something about just like having to dress up every day or like go behind a camera every single day was ruining it for me, and it was kind of diminishing my creative outlets because I do love to model, I love photography, but the fact that I was having to do that for work was just like sucking all of my creative juice out. It was going all to sex work rather than, any of my other outlets. So I just prefer being in the club over online work because I feel safer. I have security around me. I can choose who sees me and who, gets access to me and who doesn't, rather than I can't do that online. It's a lot less controlled for me personally.
I mean, I think it's good that you're touching upon a lot of the things that don't get talked about with like just not even just OnlyFans with cam girling as well, is that you can
Hmm.
be identified. It is a permanent mark on the
Yeah,
internet
you're there forever.
forever. Like even if your content is protected legally, like that doesn't mean anything in
It
the
still
long.
gets screenshotted.
Yeah, I
It's,
mean, yeah, it still
yeah.
gets screenshotted, still getting posted on 4chan behind your back, and like,
Hmm.
yes, like you can take legal action, but it's not the same as like being a stripper where you can have that privacy of like your work being in this particular environment and then you can leave it at the end of the day. You can hide
Hmm.
that, you can disguise it, from your friends and family. And I guess in like my personal life, I had been a stripper before I ever did internet stuff. Like, I mean, yeah, like you said, I was like, yeah, I've played with
Hmm.
Omegle.
Yeah.
I used to sell nudes to make like, cigarette and weed money back when I was like 18, like right before I began like legitimately stripping. And that's how I got introduced to camming, was through other strippers, because they would be like, because a lot of strippers, like they're hustlers. Like they don't just, like a lot of people don't just have one stream of income. Because in
Mm-mm.
this economy,
You gotta have a little something,
you
something
need, they
on the
say you need
side.
they say you need at least 7 streams of income to be a millionaire. So a lot of
That's true.
strippers, they have that millionaire mentality where not only are they strippers, but they're also camming, they're also doing OnlyFans, they're also seeing clients, like, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's how I was introduced to camming. but I just didn't really, like you said, have the want, desire, or the time to like devote to camming, because camming
Why?
is a full-time job. Like cam girls who are in the higher percentile of money making, whether it's like 4 to 10K a month, they're camming like a 9 to 5 job. Like they have a schedule that gets posted.
It's very
Yeah,
disciplined.
it's extremely
And I did
disciplined.
not have
And
that.
stripping is not as disciplinary because, you know, you have regulars and stuff, but you can like take time off when you need
It's more
to.
freedom, yeah.
Yeah, but
I like
I
that.
think it works for certain people. Like
Mm-mm.
not everybody obviously has the opportunity to go to a club. Not everybody has the time or the opportunity to be a cam girl. So it's kind
Right.
of like that's not one size fit all, but for me personally, like I just didn't find it to be financially rewarding enough without like giving it that full designated commitment that it needed to. So a couple years go by, and then I got into OnlyFans because of you. Because I
Oh,
think
really?
literally it was like January of 2020, or it was
Mm-hmm.
like late January, I believe.
I
Because
do remember being one of
yeah,
the first girls in our specific club
yeah.
to start an OnlyFans. I was kind of
Well,
proud of that.
you and I went to this Mediterranean place, and you were like telling me, and this was literally before the pandemic like actually happened, and you were like, I have this OnlyFans, and like it's like a great way to make like extra money on the side, just like something to cover like the basic necessities. And I was like,
Yeah.
why don't I do that? Like, I mean, I've already had experience in like social media marketing and stuff in the past, so I started experimenting with it. And for the pandemic, it was perfect. Like, I can't really remember a lot of details in between that time, but I just know that the one thing about OnlyFans is that it definitely pushed me out of my sex work comfort zone, because like the first time I ever made a sex tape, I was so nervous. Like I drank like half a bottle of Hennessy. Like I was literally like trembling because like I wasn't scared about having sex. It was just like the idea of me seeing myself like that. Like I had never had anyone record videos of me like sexually
Oh, yeah. That's
before.
why I was having dysmorphia about
So,
my body. I was like, even I
no,
was doing most of my
literally.
stuff on my own, but it was still just like
Oh
seeing
yeah.
myself on
You
camera that
think you
way.
love yourself until you have to see an up close shot of your pussy getting penetrated or something. You're like,
Yeah.
I've never seen that angle of me before, you know?
Yeah.
So that's a weird paradigm shift to like view yourself from that POV. And not that it, I
All the
mean,
details.
it's just too many details, you know, to,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also healthy because it helped me like deepen my self-acceptance to some degree. And then around the time the pandemic was becoming like a little like starting to end or get over, I started to step away from OnlyFans because it is so emotionally and spiritually time consuming, as you say, that like my creative outlets, my emotional outlets was all being like either I'm gonna put it all into the club or I'm gonna put it all into
I
OnlyFans.
had
Like
no
it's
life.
it's yeah, there's no personal life at that point. So I left it for a while, and I even came to a point where I started being like, well, do I want to be publicized like this? Do I want to be seen like this? Like what if I want to change careers? Like what if I want to do something else in my life? And then it's like I have this permanent mark of like OnlyFans forever, you know? So it's kind of like my internalized slut shaming, like Christian upbringing started to activate. And I was
Yeah,
like,
mine did
I'm
too.
like, I don't know if this is the right thing for me. Like maybe I should just stick to stripping and then, you know, try to erase everything and just like forget about it and never do this again. And then I realized at some point through that journey, when you Google my name, like my handle, the first thing that pops up is porn. Like
Yeah,
literally, like I am in the
girl.
pornography culture for the rest of my being, unless I rebranded myself. But you're still
It's
gonna
still
find that.
there. I realized that
Yeah.
recently because I've, have stopped doing OnlyFans for the
Mm-hmm.
past almost 2 years now, and people keep subscribing to it. Even though I've like hiked the price, they're still like, "Oh, I still want to see it." I'm like, "How do people keep finding it?" Well, a client mentioned to me that I have the same handle for literally everything, which I do. I did that so that nobody can like try to,
Yeah.
impersonate me. I wanted everything to be the same, but I forgot the
Yeah,
fact
but
that
it's
my
a double-edged
OnlyFans is
sword.
also the same as
Yeah.
everything. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, so if you like Google, like that's like the thing about the internet. So you have like a certain brand or a certain handle name, a certain pen name, whatever it may be.
It's
Like
in
once it
there.
gets
You're in
logged
there
into
deep.
that, like you're in there. And I kind of like was able to just be like, well, I'm not going to be able to change this. I'm not going to be able to rewrite history. So why don't I just take it all the way? Like instead of like dipping my toes
It's
into
yours
it,
now.
I did a total swan dive. As my ex says, he was like, "You I thought you were just going to play with it a little bit, but instead you just went completely all the way in." It's like, well, at this point, why not? Why
Yeah.
am I holding myself back? And like in my situation, I travel. So I call them like I'm on my world tour, you know. I travel all the time. So
Yeah.
I feel safe doing it because I have the accessibility to travel. Like no one's
Mhm.
gonna pinpoint me. I'm
Yeah.
always in a different city at a different time at a different day. So because of that, it works out for me. But I would not say it's my full-time endeavor. It's just something that I enjoy doing because I have devoted fans, like devoted regulars and customers and stuff who they don't care if I post once a month or, you know, multiple times a week. They just like once you have those people that support you and want to see that content from you, it's like who am I to say no to that? You know, they
Yeah.
appreciate me and I appreciate them. However, there is like the darker side of like you said like people behind a screen, and I had just like recently showed you like those messages of that like people admit their darkest secrets to me, or they'll tell me like their most twisted,
Because they feel safe
most
with us to do it.
demented,
Yeah.
I mean deranged. Like I had some guy message me about how he was like fantasizing. I mean, he said it was a dream, but I would say more it was a
Yeah.
fantasization of
It
him
was
and
very
his dad
detailed.
having sex with me. It was like he was saying like he was like, "Oh, like I had a dream that like my dad took you into the other room and he like fucked you in front of me." And like I was literally like, "It's really weird that you're telling me this. Like it's not weird that you're having fantasies, but what's weird is that you're thinking about your family in a sexual context
And
and
you
then just
feel
admitting to
comfortable
that."
to tell me this. And I think that's
Yeah,
part
that's like that's where the boundaries get crossed a
well,
lot.
I think that also goes into the part of them dehumanizing us a bit because they would
Yeah.
not feel comfortable telling anyone else in their
Yeah, they
life
wouldn't tell
this,
their friend or their
but they feel
mama or
comfortable telling
nobody.
someone they're paying to give them attention because they dehumanize us to a certain level. They're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, you're just a sex worker. That's what you're here to
Yeah.
do. You're here to cater to my every desire and
Yeah.
listen to my every need."
It can be to some degree like dehumanization, but I also think it's like it goes back to what I said earlier about like artists, therapists, performer, you know, sex workers are like this big branch of
Yeah, we're
multiple
just
roles.
everything.
So they're like thinking like, "Oh yeah, like this is my fantasy of like me and my dad like with you." And I'm like, "You should probably go to
I'm out of character
therapy."
now. I can't play
No,
this
I literally
character anymore.
I
I'm
like I
sorry.
broke out of character and I was like, that's the weirdest shit anyone's ever said to me. And as I continue to grow my OnlyFans, because I'm now at a percentile, like doing pretty good on Twitter, like on the in the Twitterverse, whatever. And I'm prepared for that, but also doesn't mean that I accept it. It's just something that you have to like you know, once you get into that certain industry, just be prepared for the
I don't even know how far you can be prepared because
you
things
really
will just
can't. You just gotta be a weird
that
person to
it will
begin
be
with.
very thrown off,
Yeah,
you
well,
know.
that's the sex industry though. If you
Exactly.
can't handle people telling you about their, you know, their mommy, daddy, piss, play, king play fantasy, then you should probably go back to your 9 to 5,
I had to
perhaps.
help a lot of people with their parental issues in the club.
Well, that's where Sigmund Freud, you know, he says everything is based off that
Yeah,
mommy daddy issues.
essentially.